Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and as of today, we're just a few days out before the big midnight deep dive, as well as the alpha finally going live. And there's going to be a lot of new information coming out this week, specifically regarding the next expansion of World of Warcraft, with a ton of exciting features that they'll likely be going over during the deep dive stream, as well as the Q&A section from the housing, class revamps, and world content, and so much more. However, right before we actually get the deep dive, Blizzard did throw out a couple of last-minute teasers and interviews, revealing some of the more information regarding housing content, as well as open world activities in particular, and some of the changes they're doing to that type of content going forward. So I wanted to do a last-minute overview of some of the teaser content they put up recently that actually gives us so much more information regarding what they're planning to do with both the housing as well as the open world content for many of the players that are solo players, casual, or delve enjoyers that will likely end up experiencing the world in a very different way. As always, with that being said, if you guys want to see more regular updates regarding Midnight as it hits the alpha, as we get more updates regarding the next expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So there was a brand new teaser video that showed off just a little bit, like a snippet of some of the things they're going to be talking about. Nothing crazy, nothing specifically detailed regarding classes or any of the other features of Midnight, but they did show off housing a little bit more. And I think in the community generally, out of all the different features from Midnight, housing I think is going to be a big topic of discussion when it comes to the actual deep dive that will be having on October the 1st. And I think a lot of those customization questions are probably going to be answered in that deep dive, specifically as they've been showing us piece by piece, little by little, more and more of what housing customization has. And I feel like every single time they blew past any player expectation, they showed us fairly detailed how you can customize the inside of your home with so many different rooms and different layouts, and it seems to be pretty much endless, from players building literally jumping puzzles to potentially even building like mini arenas, but also building homes, taverns, bars, and bridges out of all the different customization and furniture pieces that you could strap together. I mean, it's been pretty awesome. However, they haven't really talked much about how much customization you'll be able to do outside of your home. But this preview actually shows up that there's going to be quite a little bit. We already kind of guessed that there's going to be a decent bit of new customization, specifically because of some of the other previews. It looked like homes were a little bit more varied. It wasn't like presets, and it turns out we were right. Like, for example, they showed off the human decoration in the preview, and it seems that the house itself, maybe you'll have a couple of different options, but that by itself will be a static model. However, you'll be able to add customizations to those models, like a window or roofing that potentially could be swapped out with a couple of variations. Potentially there'll be more. But also you'll be able to add a tower to your house as well, if that's what you're looking to do. So you can either have a base house or potentially a tower at the very top, and then you can customize the inside to also have a tower so that your inside looks like the outside of your home. And we'll likely will have similar additions to those homes, since we know there'll be different types of homes available, at least at the very beginning. There's a human type of home, there's an orcish type of home, but apparently there's also supposed to be a night elfish druid hunter style, but also a silver moon blood elf style as well. So makes me wonder what type of extra add-on customizations those will have specifically, which we'll likely get a better idea during the actual deep dive. But it's also pretty cool that it showed off that you'll be able to customize the outside of your home, like with additional doodads as well. And the backyard, we know that will be not only customizable, but can then also be blocked off for other players. So if you want your backyard just to be your own personal space, you'll be able to set those parameters as well. So if you just want to have like your own patio just for you outside of your house, you'll be able to make that a public or a private area and have plenty of customization with that as well. They also showed off a little bit of the preview of some of the different customization options for the doodads and the different furniture and decorations we'll have. We saw a little bit of a preview for that back during the when they initially did the reveal for Midnight, but here they go on to show like there'll be Z, Y, and X, Y, and Z axis that you'll be able to move the different models on, be able to rotate the items, and scaling, which seems to have some limitations to it. You will be able to make items fairly large, but it looks like even a flamingo cannot be like ridiculously comically large either. but it at least looks pretty good. I think that's one of those features that a lot of players didn't really have a lot of high expectation, because previously to housing, we just had garrisons, and those didn't really meet the mark of what a player housing was. But I feel like the more information they keep showing us regarding housing, the better and better it looks for so many players that are expecting a lot out of this feature. However, they also commented that the housing technology they're creating of instances within instances, how they have this like neighborhood that's essentially an expanding instance. As more players join the neighborhood, it potentially could expand. Like if you're part of a guild, they want to have the ability for everybody in the guild to be able to be in that same instance at the same time. So it's meant to expand, it's meant to create new homes and new areas, new plots of lands for players to be able to plant their homes in. And they're looking to use that instance technology potentially out in the open world or in other features of the game that will then bleed out into other content, since it's fairly sophisticated, and it looks like they might use that sophisticated technology for open world activities as well. Which is a perfect segue, because speaking of open world activities, they've actually put up a couple of little blog posts and had even a few interviews going over some of the more information regarding the open world content coming out in Midnight, which will offer players even more events to get into, and it'll be perfect for players that are solo players, casual enjoyers, or potentially players that like the delve system. They're looking to bolster that type of player base with additional content, and adding additional robust open world content for you to dive into generally seems to be the way that they're going about this. From the prey system, which we took a look at earlier in the weeks on the channel, which looks actually overall interesting. Almost like a war mode, but for PvE, where instead of hunting down and fighting players, you're hunting down a very, very specific enemy who's also looking out for you at the same time. And you'll be going through a series of quests within the open world, looking for that foe, looking for sights of that enemy to eventually find them, but they can find you first instead and ambush you when you least expect it. It looks like it's going to have some serious dangers to it, especially in the higher difficulties, but also what looks like a seasonal reward structure, which looks really, really interesting in general, and should be a nice little addition to players that enjoy delves, but can now enjoy a little bit more danger out in the open world as well. Speaking of open world activities, they also had a blog post going over what you'll be doing when it comes to the 4 new zones of Midnight. From the Silver Moon Soiree, where you essentially are balancing reputation between the Silver Moon's military factions, akin to something you were able to do back in TBC, Burning Crusade expansion, Abundance event, which essentially allows you to harvest materials for the Loa within Zul Aman area. The Legends of the Harroneer will allow you to dive into some bite-sized Harroneer lore, journeys, and scenarios, while Storm Arian Assault will essentially be a tower defense in the Storm Arian Citadel area in that voidy zone that's, I guess, going to be potentially the end game area. So those are going to be open world activities very similar to what we have in War Within, like the Theater Troop, or potentially the Hollowfall Arathi farming event, or doing activities for the Ashkahet. And as world content goes, whenever you have a lot of players doing world content, like when you're doing Theater Troop near Dornagal, when you have like 100 players doing that event at the same time, it looks epic, but it causes issues. And the same thing happens when you have like 100 players attacking a world boss at the same time, which causes a lot of server instability, lag, spell delays, and the gameplay experience in general, while amazing to look at, it basically creates an unplayable experience when you have too many players attacking a thing at the same time. And they actually commented as to how they're looking to alleviate some of those server and world issues in the future, potentially by maybe going back to the Legion style solutions, specifically when it comes to some of the invasions that you did towards the tail end of that expansion. And essentially what they're thinking of doing is using the instance content and instance technology of housing to instance some of those open world activities. So instead of fighting a world boss out in the open world, you will instead go through like a portal or some kind of loading screen that takes you into an instance where a world boss is at. And they can do that also for some of the open world activities. So instead of going outside of Dornagal for a Theater Troop, instead it'll be like a door or a portal, and it takes you to an instance of a Theater Troop, and other people will join you in the instance automatically. So you can still experience those type of content with other players. It'll just be in a more limited capacity that technically isn't happening in the open world at the same time. So instead of having like 100 players attacking a world boss, you'll have like 5 different instances of 20 players killing their own versions of the world boss, so they can still have a proper encounter without any lag or issues, while the open world still continues to chug along without any lag or issues or delays. This is an interesting solution depending how they do it, because I mean, it makes the world feel less alive if you took the world out of World of Warcraft, because then it's a world of instance craft, and I don't necessarily think a lot of players enjoy it, but at the same time, a lot of players don't enjoy the degraded performance issues when you have 20 or 100 players at the same time fighting the same world boss and the game is just absolutely unplayable. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about it, but that is a potential solution that we might be actually encountering at some point throughout Midnight. We'll have a better idea once the game actually hits alpha and potentially even beta. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys did enjoy this quick little update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like, as I would very much appreciate it. Also, be sure to join our Discord community, especially if you want to keep up with any Midnight Alpha updates that we'll likely be covering there and on the channel pretty regularly. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.